Hotepu gatekeepers and all my gay shamans out there in the world. I wanted to do a very quick video on the Bill Cosby scandal from the point of view of Kemetic gay astrology. The oldest form of astrology known to humankind was lunar, looking at the moon because it's very obvious to see at night, and of course the stars, because the stars are also very easy to see at night. So modern astrology has lost the focus on the stars because they don't go outside and look anymore. It's always astrologers looking at computer screens and charts on paper. But in Kemet, the gatekeepers, who were the great astrologers, the gay astrologers, spent their whole lives watching the, so to speak, TV screen of the heavens, where they were watching divine drama play out, divine soap operas playing out in the heavens. And it was very exciting for them, in the way that many people find television exciting in modern times. So we at the Golden Beetle have resurrected the Kemetic way of looking at an astrology chart. And that deals a lot more with the stars. The stars are far more powerful than the planets. They're older than the planets. In fact, planets are born from stars, from suns. So I decided to look at Bill Cosby from the Golden Beetle gay Kemetic astrology point of view. And it was very fascinating to unpack a few details that can be quite damaging to his reputation, it seems. The first thing we look at is what's called the heliacal rising star and the heliacal setting star. Now, you've probably heard of the famous heliacal rising of Sirius, which marked the Kemetic New Year. That is true. And that fact that they used a heliacal rising star to mark the great beginning of the year was a clue to the gay astrologer of the Nile Valley to keep his eye on all heliacal rising stars, whether it's Sirius or not, the star Sirius or not. So when I calculated Bill Cosby's chart from our Kmetic algorithm, our gay astronomy algorithm, his heliacal rising star is actually Sirius, what we call Sopedu. Sopedu is a very powerful star. It means you're meant to make a mark in history, that you're going to burn away blocks, barriers, and become a pioneer or some great revolutionary that is recorded in the annals of history. That clearly he has done. There's a feature of this star where it likes to burn things. It likes to burn away impurities, burn away things that are corruptible. And so this star will burn you. You will succeed and become very powerful and influential, but at a price. There's going to be a burning of your personal self, burning the flesh, so to speak, that the spirit may come to life. So this means Bill Cosby did sacrifice a lot to become the star that he became and to do the work he did for the black community in terms of burning away blocks, barriers, and racial glass ceilings. At the same time, this star will burn anything else in the chart. So anything in your chart that's impure, Sirius will go after it. Burn it to purify it, because fire distills something to its most pure, fundamental state. So when you take Sirius and you apply it to Benuosar, his Venus, which represents women, sexuality, sex, pleasure, joy, what we call Meow, the cat of joy. When we apply the fire of the star Sirius, which is not shown on the screen here, but it would be somewhere around down here. Well, you can't see it here. It'll be beneath this area here, down here. Okay? And what that means when you combine Sirius or Sopedu with Venus Benuosar, you get a person who's looking for the divine in a relationship, the divine in desire and sex. And as a result, the person will go to every length to look for it and to try to find the divine in everything in terms of sex, sensuality, or desire. That's important. Number two, the heliacal setting star, which is the star that you promised the world you would give the gift of. That the heliacal setting star is your promise to the world. The heliacal rising star is your promise to your ancestors. So Bill Cosby promised through Sirius that he would burn away evil, racism, and negativity for his people in exchange for fame, which he did. The heliacal setting star is a promise he made to the world. That star is called Vega. Vega, which is the alpha star in what's called the lyre, L-Y-R-E, like a harp. And this is the star of the magical, the mystical, the wondrous, the otherworldly. And when you link it to Benu-Osar, his love life, or his sexuality, or his desire nature, it brings an unrealistic, otherworldly, impractical expectation of others. And it often leads to disappointments. So we're seeing a profile building here. This is the man that wants to burn away blocks. He wants to find the pure, divine essence of something, particularly of the planet Venus, Benu-Osar, but it's disappointing. He's looking for the ideal, and he can never find it, so he becomes disappointed. He feels there's lacking, always something lacking. So that means he tries to go for a bigger hit. It's much like an addiction. When a person keeps taking a drug, pretty much after a little while, they need more dosages of the drug because the older dosage, the lower dosage, no longer has a hit for them. So they keep searching for the perfect hit, which is insanity actually, but that's the nature of addiction. Bill Cosby has this feature with these stars. And there's one more thing that confirms this feature of his psychology. There is a planet we call Wacha, called the southern node of the moon. Some call it Watchit, we call it Wacha. In his chart, he has Benu-Osar, Venus, the love principle, conjunct the cobra Wacha, the same cobra you see on King Tut's forehead. This cobra, called the dragon's tail, is a dragon. It is a serpent. And this particular point in the sky deals with wanting something not of this world, something so pure, so perfect, that it can't be found on Earth. Wherever you have the southern node in your chart is an area where you're very dissatisfied. You're very let down because you just feel this area is just not fulfilling you properly. So you become very obsessed with finding perfection, a perfection that can never be found. So now we have what's called a preponderance of evidence. We have his heliacal rising star Sirius, making him look for the perfect spiritual state in sex. We have the heliacal setting star Vega, this kind of otherworldly, idyllic, sky, pie in the sky view of sex, which can never be fulfilled, so it's disappointing. Then we have the cobra, conjunct the love god, again, making him want something so bad at a level of perfection that it cannot be found. So we're seeing this theme here. Now, I want to go into some of the fixed stars that deal with his chart too, and I'm going to run a few names here for you. I'm going to try to find them with my pointer for you on the screen. This is a very complicated calculation we use in the Gatekeeper's astrology system, and it's extremely effective. It's very, very African, very, very Kmetic. Okay, let's begin. There is a star called Achird, which is also called Eta Cassiopeia, and here you see Cassiopeia, and it's not shown here, but it's somewhere near her belly. It's in here, this star, links to his Venus, his sex life. Okay? And this star, this planet Venus, also links to what's called Chi Andromeda. Chi Andromeda, which is right about here in her leg, right about this area here. So between Andromeda's legs, this star links to his love planet of Bennu star Venus. Omicron Cepheus. Omicron Cepheus right about here in the sword of, up here in the sword of Cepheus. Cepheus, his sword. So we have Cepheus's sword linking to his Venus. We have a star in the belly or the vagina area of Cassiopeia. We have a star in the leg of Andromeda, linking to his Bennu star Venus. We have a star here, right about here, near the head of the ram of Aries, called 21 Arietis. We have a star called Mu Cetus, about here in the head of the, here it is, Mu Cetus, in the head of the monster Cetus. This is the great demon of the depths. Then there's a star called Tau 4 Eridani, which is right about here, yes, here, in the river of Eridanus, here Eridanus. There's also a supernova remnant underneath Cassiopeia's throne here. It's not shown, but it's there, called the Tycho supernova, which is important. There's a black hole there. And there's a variable star RZ Persei, yes, which is around here, near his blade, that links to this Bennu star Venus. So what am I saying? What I did was I calculated all the fixed stars that are sending their beams through Bennu star. Imagine the planet as a net, and the stars are beams of energy, beams of starlight. And the planet, each planet, is a net that captures the beams pointed towards it along the ecliptic, as well as along the horizon in the heliacal sense. So each planet is like a net or a prism that's capturing various star beams and focusing it through that planet. This is the link between planets and stars. Stars send their energy, and it is focused through the prism of each planet. So the prism of Bennu star Venus, the sex god, as a prism, is receiving the stars I mentioned. At a Cassiopeia, in the ribcage of Cassiopeia, Andromeda's between her legs, the left arm of Cepheus, right above the ram's head, the monster's head, Mu Cetus, Eridanus, the waters of drowning, the supernova Tychus, under the throne of Cassiopeia, a black hole there, and variable star RZ Persei in his blade. Okay? So, the important thing to notice here is that this part of the sky does a lot with bondage. Cepheus here, Cassiopeia, Andromeda, and Cetus. Cetus is known as the Kraken in mythology, like in Clash of the Titans, the Kraken. And recall, Andromeda was chained to a rock, and her royal parent, she was a princess, and she was chained to a rock to be devoured by the Kraken, or Cetus, the whale. And Cassiopeia and Cepheus were her parents, the king and queen. And Perseus was her savior, holding the head of Medusa, to save Andromeda from the Kraken Cetus. So you've probably heard this story. There are movies about this theme, and it is quite accurate, this part of the sky. So this whole area of the sky deals a lot with bondage, torture, very trying situations, and freedom. So we have a bondage freedom story here. Remember Sirius, which is his promise to the ancestors. To do what he did, he had to do a lot of sacrifices. So it bound him a lot. He had a lot of constraints on him. So because of this pressure, being bound by trying to be a black man who's going to be not a typical black man and trying to break through racial stereotypes, he was very much bound in many ways. And Venus or Venus also controls all art. So his artistic expression had these binding chains on it that he was trying to unshackle. As a result, this constant having to monitor himself and check himself so he's not put in the category as a typical angry black man or something, he had no freedom artistically, really, in many ways. So it sublimated, and so he became more wild in sexual interests. They're both Benos or Venus. One half of Benosar was controlled. The other half became wildly out of control. So we see here that his Benosar, in terms of relationships, deal a lot with being torturing, because Cetus, this star here, and this Mu Cetus here, this star here, deals a lot with jailers and imperial arrogance. When this star is active in a chart, the person has very imperial, almost dictator kind of arrogance and selfishness. So here he thinks he's the man, he's rich, he's powerful, and he can bind these women, he could control them. He can chain them to a rock and say, if you go against me, I will awaken the Kraken on you. I will unleash a storm on you, a monster in your life, and ruin you forever. Because I can, because I'm the dictator, I'm the emperor. So he said, if you're good to me, I will be Perseus here, your liberator, your freedom fighter. I will give you things or help you out or give you promotion or give you contacts. You see? So Cassiopeia here, the queen, the African queen, says that he made them feel like queens. He told women, I will crown you. Yes? And he says, I'm the King Cepheus. And I have the sword. I can hurt you or I can defend you against things in the industry or things you're trying to go after. And I can make you queen. But he was arrogant because Cassiopeia was arrogant, which resulted in Andromeda being cursed to be devoured by the Kraken. So in exchange for his protection or his contacts, he bound women. He did things that were very inappropriate, very untoward and disgusting, binding them to being his slave, basically. I'm the king, I can do what I want, you do what I say, and don't you mention it to anyone. And I will appear to be the freedom fighter, but in fact I'm the one binding you to the Kraken Cetus, the monster. And this black hole beneath Cassiopeia's throne has a black hole, meaning, well, this, I don't want to get vulgar with the obvious correlate, but it's a black hole beneath the woman's bottom. This is the vagina, so one could say. And he's pulled into it. Nothing can escape the black hole. No light can escape that event horizon. So there's a real obsession here. This black hole is pulling his consciousness into this state of mind, making him, in a way, derangedly obsessed with sex. You see? And so, in the end, I would say that he is guilty of what he's being accused of. He has misused his power and his authority. He has threatened women with it. And he's promised them the world if they say good, and promised them the Kraken, the monster of revenge, if they go against him. He's obsessed with this. He feels it's his only place to be free, and he keeps looking for the perfect sexual experience and never finds it. So he burns women, and he destroys them in many ways. And so I would say he is guilty of what he's accused of, and by the charts of the gods of Kemet, I would confirm this is what heaven would also say. In Kemet, in our Golden Beetle temples, we do have a legal system, and we throw oracles. We look at the charts to look for the patterns in the person's behavior, their hardwiring in their subconscious. Then we do readings with our high oracle of Ra, and then with that background information plus meditation and spiritual vision through deep trance, we hear all the parts of the parties involved, the plaintiff and defendant, and then we make a decision based upon the input of the stars, the oracles, and the plaintiff and defendant's testimonies. But just from the star angle, I would agree that he is guilty. So this is a quick taste of what the gay men learn in the Golden Beetle, and how by going back to the ancient Kemetic understanding of astrology, which focuses a lot less on planets, except for that planets are nothing more than prisms focusing star beams, star energies, versus looking at the chart so much, which is more the white man's astrology. We do use that. It's very effective. Not the way the white man uses it. The way we use it is much more effective. But planets do have power. But planets came after stars. Stars are much more powerful. And we can see here the storyline playing out with Bill Cosby really does show a very clear disturbance of the mind when it comes to things sexual for Mr. Cosby. So, we shall do more of these interpretations of real-life events, showing it from our gay astrologers' Nile Valley techniques. Be well, Dwawa and Tuapo.